Hello lads, ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever, welcome back to another video. Being the flagship series for Microsoft Xbox's line of consoles, Halo has become arguably one of the most important FPS franchises of all time, especially in the early 2000s, due to the fact that it made pretty much every competitor want to be known as Halo killers. Launching on November 15th in 2001 and developed by the legendary team at Bungie, Halo Combat Evolved was an absolute force to be reckoned with within the gaming sphere. Selling an estimated 5 million copies, it is the original Xbox's most successful game outside of its follow-up, Halo 2, which is the only game to outdo it. Though when saying that, fucking Sneak King is apparently third, so, you know. Man, Xbox kinda deserve better. Being a brand new IP from Microsoft and expected to help carry the original Xbox to compete against the PlayStation 2, Halo's initial success was more than just its sales numbers. As it was universally loved by critics and fans alike, it gave people a reason to get their hands on the original Xbox. Halo was a bit of a gamble for the newcomers to the console market, as it was one of the few proper sci-fi FPS games that had a rather expansive story and lore. More on that in a little bit. That released in an era of World War II shooters. From the original Call of Duty to Medal of Honor, there was nothing like Halo really at the time. It was a gamble that paid off as it went against the grain of what everyone expected Microsoft to do. Sure, we did have other sci-fi FPSs such as Deus Ex and Half-Life, but we didn't have something like Halo just yet. Before getting into the plot though, I think it's important to mention that Halo has had some accusations of being a rip-off of books like Ringworld by Larry Niven, and although I can see what people are saying to an extent due to the Halo rings themselves, it's clearly an inspiration and not a one-to-one rip-off. Let's be real, most fictional stories are inspired by other fictional stories. This is clearly a case of inspiration, not theft. What helps Halo stand out immediately from everything else on the market is the fact Halo doesn't treat the player like an idiot. Instead of trying to hit you over the head with all the information before it lets you get into the action, Halo lets you take part in the action and answers the questions that will arise. Upon waking up in the Pill of Autumn, Master Chief is told they're under attack by an enemy only known as the Covenant. Obviously, as a player, many questions will arise immediately. Who are the Covenant? What are they doing here? Where the hell's my weapon? The start of the game is frantic, loud, and tense. We get to see the Covenant in passing. We get to see them as aliens, all different sizes, shapes. We also get to see the damage they do as they kill our fellow man. It gives them the aura of threat that we need to be aware of, at least until we get a gun. Upon meeting up with Captain Keyes, we also meet Cortana, everyone's favorite hot AI waifu.
What? I can't hear you! Too busy looking at your ass!
We learn of the dangers of the Covenant and also find out about the ring world known as Halo that is believed to be a weapon, and we get tasked with taking it down. As we head out into this epic adventure, we get straight into the gameplay after an initial walking section. Being an FPS, it plays how you would pretty much expect for the most part. However, unlike most FPS games of its time, Halo actually limits the player to only 2 weapons at any given time. Though more annoying in modern games, for the time it was actually a pretty interesting design choice, as it meant the game had to be a little more tactical. Though not lacking in weapons overall, compared to later entries in the series, the first game does have quite the limitations. It's a bit hard to go back and play, especially if you're used to the newer Halo games. The cool thing about this limitation though was the fact players would naturally find the combinations that would suit them best, and if you played with someone else you might find that you had different weapon combinations to them, and all these different combinations could potentially be more or less effective in certain situations, meaning the combat would evolve. The game's movement is pretty quick, though not as fast paced as something like Doom. Halo does reward the constant movement. However, that's not all it does, it also rewards cautious and tactical gameplay. This means it managed to cater to pretty much any playstyle at the time, doing something very few games truly managed to do. This is because of the use of the shield and health system, which was a really smart design choice. Being more than just health and armor pickups like you would have in the old school games like Quake, Unreal Tournament and Doom, but being a little bit more than just the regenning health system that made games from the mid 2000s to 2010s have a bit of a gameplay flow issue. When you shield depleted and you heard that beeping sound, you shit yourself. But being able to pick up health packs to regen health, while also having the option to just wait it out and wait for your shield to recharge, meant that you got to pick the pace of each fight. And it's not to say you're a walking tank though, you will die pretty quick, which leads to my first and only real complaint about the game's gameplay. And I wouldn't even say it's a complaint as much as an observation, and that's the fact it feels like certain enemies can take way too long to kill, and that they can kill you faster than you can kill them. I understand elites should be much stronger than grunts, but sometimes it feels like I'm shooting them forever to kill them. Even when I melee them, it feels like it does nothing, whereas if they do it to me, it feels like I've been in the ring with Mike Tyson. Consisting of 10 main levels, Halo will take you roughly 10 or so hours to beat on that initial playthrough. However, once you play the game a couple of times, odds are you'll be able to fly through things pretty damn quick, and this is because you'll know where you're going, as the game doesn't really tell the player the best directions to go on your initial playthrough. This is because Halo tries to be a little bit more hands-off and lets the levels themselves guide the player as to where they need to go, and although overall the levels are pretty good at doing this, due to some samey architecture in certain levels, it can get a little bit confusing on that initial run-through. You'd also think that only having 10 levels, the game might be lacking in variety overall, but this isn't the case. Halo has an amazing variety of locations and level design that help the game from ever feeling too stale as an entire product. As I mentioned just before though, some areas can feel a little bit samey, however they are usually in shorter bursts rather than that of an entire level. From the beach to the library, you're pretty much in for one hell of a time. While traversing through pretty much every level, you'll fight all the different forms of the Covenant, and this might be a little bit controversial, but at least by the time you hit the halfway point, they do get a little bit stale. To the game's credit though, these enemies do have enough variety in terms of how you approach them that it isn't too mind-numbing. But I mentioned the library before, and this is where we get to meet probably the most infamous zombie-like enemies in all gaming, the Flood. The Flood come at the perfect time to break up the repetitive flow of combat that we've seen up to this point. Having this horde-like enemy, for a lack of a better term, flood and surround you in crazy numbers is a masterful tonal shift from what we've seen, as the game goes from action to horror in a split second. And to just go back to what I said earlier real quick, Halo lets you ask questions and get the answers. And this is because before we even see a single flood, we get some of the greatest environmental storytelling ever in any game. And it leads to what I consider to be the greatest single scene in this game, that of the scared Marine.
Stay back! Stay back! You're not turning me into one of those things!
It makes you wonder what made this battle-hardy Marine scared, considering up to this point we've seen them take on the Covenant like it's nothing. This made the Flood truly imposing. So up to this point I've talked about the action, the gameplay, the storytelling, but what else makes Halo great? Well, the soundtrack. The soundtrack is just phenomenal. All the music was written and composed by Martin O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore, and holy shit, it is easily one of the greatest soundtracks ever written. From the absolutely iconic opening theme, to the battle music you'll hear throughout the game, there is not a single misstep in this game's musical presentation. And now's where you're probably going to hate me a little bit, and this is because I need to get something off my chest, and feel free to debate me in the comment section below. But as a character, Master Chief kinda sucks. I'm sorry, he just does. At least he doesn't deserve to be on the mantle of greatest characters ever written. I know he gets more development as the series goes on, but as a silent protagonist, he is not meant to have a personality. He is not meant to be well written. The idea is you impart on him. But Karlik, what about Link, Gordon Freeman, and all those others? Yeah, they suck too. They're just vessels for us, the player, to be the hero. That's what they're meant to do. They're meant to let us experience this world that's been created that we can't experience in real life. It is a form of escapism, and it's perfectly fine to be that way. Master Chief lets us enjoy a sci-fi epic like no other, with a story and world like StarCraft or Mass Effect. Furthermore, by no fault of its own, it caused a bit of a vacuum within the industry as everything tried to copy what Halo did. As I mentioned earlier, everything wanted to be Halo killers, just like you see with games like Call of Duty and Fortnite today. So the innovation that the series created sort of became the downfall of the industry as a whole, which, just to reiterate, is not Halo's fault, which just shows how Special Combat Evolved actually is. It set the groundwork and foundation for something bigger than itself, and it lived up to those expectations. And although I never owned an original Xbox myself, I had a friend growing up who did have one, so we would go to his place in order to play it. I remember playing multiplayer, trying to beat the campaign on harder difficulties, and just having a great time in general. And that's the story of Halo. It really has a history with everyone who's played it. Everyone who's played it has remembered it. Everyone who has played it has a story to share from when they've played with friends, when they've played multiplayer, when they got screwed over by a bloody plasma grenade. It is more than just a game. And if you have somehow never managed to play it, get your hands on it. Get the Master Chief Collection and enjoy it, because it is something special. So with that, lads, ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever, it brings us to the end of another video. I hope you enjoyed this look back at Halo Combat Evolved, and share your stories below. Tell me about the good times you got teabagged by a friend because they were a douchebag who kept killing you over and over again. Or you kept killing them. Why do I bring that up? Because I want to give a shout out to my friend Adrian, who helped me get the footage from FS Imagery. There will be a link to his Instagram page down below. Please consider giving him some love. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button, and if you want to go a little bit further, hit that subscribe button. If you want to go that extra mile, you can support me on Ko-fi from just $1 a month, like these lovely people here. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there. Bye.